8, 9, 10. I'll call this meeting to order, the special meeting Friday afternoon, October 24th. We do have a quorum. A couple council members were unavailable. We've got one item on our agenda tonight, item B1, which is discussion and possible legal action to approve an increase in the contract amount with Olney Construction for the Mountain Meadow Recreation Complex ADA ramp and curbing project number 23-002. Christy.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing us to call this special meeting. It's important to us to keep our relationship with our contractors right up at the top of our list. And I was given an invoice to review and a check to sign for a final payment to Olney Construction for the ADA path and the curbing and gutter project at Mountain Meadow Recreation Complex. The last bill was for $31,000, or was it? I have it here. I want to give you the exact numbers. The last invoice, it was 31 or 32.
I don't remember.
I'm sorry, I'm getting there. I thought I had it on the top of my head. The last invoice was for $31,778.19. So on the justification memo, it just said it was approved Public Works Project 23002 via Council Resolution 241761. So wanting to do my due diligence, I pulled that resolution and contract. That resolution was approved by Council November 21st of 2024 in an amount not to exceed $126,895.36, I believe. And this would put the project over by $27,000. So when I spoke with the finance company, that amount was not approved by council. A town manager typically can approve up to $50,000 if it's within the budget. But because this went over what the council made a motion not to exceed, it has to come back to you guys for those overages. So with that, Milena worked really great with me and answered all these questions I had, and thank you. So I asked her to sit over here with me because she did go out and measure the linear feet today because there was a lot of change orders, and she did find a small discrepancy. She's reached out to Olney Construction, and he's unfortunately on a deer hunt right now. But I'm going to let Milena explain that part to you.
Good afternoon. I almost said good evening. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I did go out and measure the biggest discrepancy, or I wouldn't even say discrepancy, question that we had was the linear footage of the vertical, type A vertical curb and gutter. The total amount that was in the contract with the change orders was just a little over 1,418. It was 1,418.8 feet. I did go out and measure, and I was not on site for the project during the whole thing, but I did measure, and measuring the type A vertical curb, you measure top back of curb for that. I had the wheel out there, and I measured 1,300.8 feet. So it's a difference, a little difference, about 118 feet. I did leave a message for the contractor, Greg Olney, who is just a phenomenal guy and a great contractor. Unfortunately, like Christy said, he's out on a deer hunt in Sierra Vista with his sons until Friday. He'll be back. Christy and I talked yesterday, and she asked me this morning if I would go out and measure, just in case you all had that question, to verify that it was actually all of the work was done. I did go out, obviously, and I would like to see if we could amend the motion to approve the change orders as presented, with the caveat that we would meet with the contractor on site to verify the linear footage and actually make sure that what was completed is what gets paid. Want to make sure that obviously we're doing our due diligence and moving forward. This is something that typically I believe you guys know that we would normally have a contingency line item in our contracts, which is a lump sum amount, typically 10 or 20% of the contract amount For whatever reason, this contract did not have that in it. Moving forward, that would be something that we would make sure that we do so that we don't run into these issues. I appreciate Christy being diligent to make sure that we are full transparency with our council and our citizens. But what I would like to ask is, again, if you guys would feel comfortable approving the change orders and allowing us that extra contracted amount with the knowledge that we would work with the contractor when he gets back in town to verify the...
So we won't issue the check until that has been verified.
In the information that you sent out to us this afternoon, Christy, you indicated that there were some delays that were our fault.
Yes.
Does that have any impact on why the contract went over? Is it, I mean, cost increase?
Not for the dollar amount. No, it went over by days. If you know, it was 90 days, but those are only where where he was actually working within the scope. We did do, I sent it to Christy, and I'm not sure if I have it in my file here, but we did do a suspension of work because there was items that the Public Works Department needed to take care of to prep the site to make sure that he could get out there and build the forms and pour the concrete.
I guess my point is, because of our delays, did the cost of materials go up for them?
I don't believe so. What even with concrete prices, they've been pretty steady over the last year, haven't changed a whole lot.
And Mayor, the reason why I wanted to give you guys that information is just because I went through the entire contract, and any questions that I thought you guys might have on it, I wanted to be able to answer those for you.
Well, I just want to make sure our delays didn't cause any problems for the contractor.
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
And as I said, I believe the concrete prices have stayed pretty steady.
I have just
Go
a
ahead.
question too. Were there any delays on the part of the contractor, or were they all on the part of?
No, there weren't any delays from the contractor other than weather delays. We actually have a change order number 6 that has some weather delays because of snow, rain, and/or temperature. Concrete's very finicky, and you have to have a good temperature to be able to pour it. Otherwise, it could freeze, and it never hardens to the right consistency, I guess is the word to use. But not anything that he did.
And the other delays were just so that Public Works could get some of the site areas prepared for him to come in and complete his work.
Okay, that was the question I had. I wanted to make sure we didn't cause any of the problems. Okay, any other questions from the council? Councilor Heisler?
I did want to ask a couple of questions. I was reviewing that contract, and it appears sometime at the end of December we issued them a check or we contracted them to do that work. And in that contract, like you said, it says from that point we have 10 days to get on site, and the contractor has 90 days to finish the work. I understood you guys had some change order which outlined dates which you had blacked out. But if I'm calculating correctly, it still took them 189 days to get the work done.
Correct, but that also doesn't take into consideration the suspension of work. And I have the memo I sent to Christy. The change order, we did a memo for suspension of work, Mountain Meadow Recreation Complex. It was dated May 22nd. And the suspension actually remained in effect until the end of October, so October 31st. But because we were able to get done quicker, Greg was actually able to come back on site at the end of September to get the work completed. So those added to those days to extend that contract termination date, or by when he had to have the work completed. And then additionally, there were 81 calendar days that we added for that's I'm sorry, I said in addition. There was 81 calendar days that we added from the delays for the town, and then weather delays that we had.
So you feel like they're justified within their 90-day window to have completed the work?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You may don't feel pressured to answer this question right now because I don't know, but I looked at the pictures that were provided in the council packet, and I'm struggling to see the correlation between the ADA path, which is what was approved by council, the ADA path trail, and where the concrete work actually took place which was a lot of the parking lot in Mountain Meadow Park.
Yeah,
So-
part of that actually was included in the original grant, and I could get even more of a detailed answer to make sure that I'm not misrepresenting anything, but that was part of the original ADA path grant, because that path ties into that parking lot there by the basketball court. So if I recall correctly, that was part of the original project to complete that.
Thank you.
And I certainly, again, I'd be happy to make sure that I am correct and get back to you on that as well.
I was just wondering, like, the scope of project, right? Like, was that stuff actually included? And we can talk about that, later, but I just wanted to make sure, because it didn't seem like it completely correlated to what was being done.
Yeah, I understand. I can see why you would think that. And certainly the ADA ramps, the crossing, crossing the basketball court parking entrance, and then also additionally down by the baseball fields. Those are all ADA compliant issues that we had to address.
So my understanding is you're saying that the grant we got for the ADA path work included all that curbing for that entire parking lot,
Correct.
because it all tied together to that ADA path.
Correct, yes. It was more than just, it's kind of what we called the project, I guess. It was the title, because the main scope of that project was the ADA path around Mountain Meadow.
And then I also wanted to clarify something. On that original item that was taken to council in November, I think it was just put on there for a $104,000 grant, when we actually got $110,000 for that grant that we found. And I did verify with Stacy that money did come in
Okay, thank you.
in January or February of this year.
And Councilmember Phillips, just to add one more thing too, there were some changes that we did make after the initial grant application was done. I believe the grant application, if I recall correctly, was done in 2020 by Bridget Blake. And that there was, engineering plans hadn't been completed at that point, but there were a few things that were changed during that or the grant process, and then fulfilling that. But we did fulfill all of our obligations for the grant. Yeah.
Councilor Heisler, did you have something else to say?
I did. I just wanted to add one more thing, and it's not really a question. Well, I guess part of it is a question. I guess as I review policies and procedures for the town, I am not sure how a director could approve these change orders with town policy absent there's nothing in the purchasing policy I can see that allows a director to approve these kind of change orders. The council action was the do not exceed, and so I guess from my perspective, I'm interested in how we can hold people accountable for this, because this is a pretty big deal. At $27,000, this should have gone out potentially to other contractors for bid. It's quite a bit of money, and it's over the council authorized amount for the job. So I would just like if we could potentially look in with legal counsel or whatever into how we could hold somebody accountable for doing this either now or in the future.
Thank you, Councilmember Heiser. I appreciate that. I reviewed the purchasing policy along as well, and I agree that it's not under the scope that a director should be doing that. Even if it is an action by council, it should go back to council, and not even a town manager, even though we have the ability to approve up to $50,000. If it's not budgeted, we don't. It goes to council. I can definitely send this to our attorney. Looking forward, we'll work in our director meetings with every department director to ensure that this doesn't happen again. And I think everyone here has the best of intentions to ensure that this doesn't happen again as well.
Well, I just want to say I very much appreciate you both catching this. I appreciate the work you've done to make sure it was done the right way. And so just thank you both.
Did you want to add something?
You're welcome. Yeah, one thing that I wanted to add was just, and I'll look through the bid documents. I don't know, Councilmember Heisler, if you had a chance to review the bid documents. And I know I just can't think of this one off the top of my head. The PD one is such a huge one that it just sticks out like a sore thumb. Typically, you have a project manager identified in those bid documents. At the time for all of these projects, that was Director Patterson, that has the authority to approve those change orders. However, I understand that you're concerned with the dollar amounts. To address the issue with the bid, going out back to bid, when we do change orders, those have to, the line items have to match what the linear footage price or anything like that would be. So it's still getting that bid price that we already did go out and get. So just if that helps you with anything, but.
And I believe in that situation, if there
More
was.
of my concern is that this was a do not exceed amount, and the director was authorizing expenses outside that do not exceed amount. And I feel the same way. I feel like that should easily have just come back to council and said, hey, we're going to go over budget on this. Can you guys give us approval to do another $27,000? But now the money's been spent, the work's complete, and we don't have a choice. I don't want to shaft a local contractor out of money for work that they already did. But it just feels backwards. That's all. And I think, I guess from my opinion, I feel like there should be some accountability for that. You can't just run off and spend the town's money without the proper authorization. And I guess that's the point I'm getting at.
And I think, Councilor Heisler, if we build contingencies into projects moving forward, that project manager, Melina, as the interim Public Works Director, would be able to implement those changes because we would have had it listed as a contingency.
Correct.
Unfortunately, it was an oversight on this one, and we can just do better moving forward on that.
And I think that's the good answer, is that we have to do better moving forward.
There certainly was nothing ill-intended or anything like that with this. But I understand the perception is.
Yeah, it's time to continue moving forward as
Correct.
best we can and learn from our mistakes and not let them happen again.
Absolutely, 100%.
At least do the best we can.
Yes.
Nobody's perfect.
No.
Anyway, any further questions from any of the council members? Or I'd entertain a motion. Councilor Heisler?
I move to approve an increase of $27,422.18 to the Mountain Meadow Recreation Complex ADA Path and Curbing Project number 23002 and authorize payment to Olney Construction from the town's contingency fund.
We need to correct
We
that,
need
though.
to put in Melina, verification of the linear feet.
Can we back up for a second? We have Sarah on the phone, and she wanted to say something about where that fund was going to come from. Because when I was talking to Melina today, she said there was also a rollover in the Parks Fund of $300,000. So I asked Sarah if she could explain that to you guys. Are you guys okay with that? If we back it up just a little bit?
That's fine, but I think we all kind of know how a carry forward works, and that carry forward is probably budgeted into our current budget. But go ahead, Sarah, if you want to add to that.
No, that's correct, Madam Mayor. So it mentioned contingency fund. That's a term that, I know that there's a budget in the general fund for contingency. That's not necessarily what we mean here. This is more from using our, reserve balances. So there is a reserve balance that was planned in parks, so that's where this would come from. But again, one of the reasons why it's really helpful to have that reserve balance, so that's where this will come from.
So stating contingency fund is really not, in my mind, a contingency is the line item in the budget that says contingency.
It's correct. It's really more of the reserve carryover fund balance that we would use to pay for this. So it's our reserve fund.
I still think it should be from Parks budget, but anyway, go ahead, Councilor Heiser, you need to amend it.
I just want to clarify, it is from the parks. There's a parks reserve fund balance that's budgeted that we plan to have a reserve fund balance at the end of the fiscal year for parks. This would decrement that by the $27,000.
Yes, exactly. Okay, thank you.
I'll take a swing. I move to approve an increase of $27,422.18 to the Mountain Meadow Recreation Complex ADA Path and Curbing Project number 23002 after proper authorization by the Acting Public Works Director and Acting Town Manager and authorize payment to Olney Construction from the Parks Reserve Fund? Contingency Fund?
Reserve fund.
That works.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on this. Is there further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Christina Molina, for your efforts on this, and thanks for showing up on a Friday afternoon. There's no further business. This meeting is adjourned.